Shabbat shalom to those who are live on YouTube. We're about to let everybody in. We're going to have all our participants join us now. I want to welcome everyone. Shabbat shalom. You're going to find in just a moment, we're going to be pasting in the link into the chat for our prayer book. And so if you take your scroller and you go down to where it says chat, you'll find that it pops up. You'll find in just a moment that the prayer book's going to pop up. You can follow along either by toggling back and forth as you move from screen to screen, or there's a little counter on the bottom. You'll see we're beginning on page 10 of page 406. And so whatever page we're on, you can always type in that and it'll jump you to whatever page you need to go. So we're going to begin on page 10 with the singing of Hine Matov, which says how wonderful it is that we can all be together. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov. I want to see your mouths moving. Hine matovu manayim shevet achim gam yachad. 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 So Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom, Ronnie. Thank you for joining us and to adding your voice, and Shabbat shalom to all those who are assembled. We're going to begin, as we normally do, with reading, a thing to set us up and a thing to lead us into what will soon be the lighting of our candles and the blessing of our wine, or kiddush, which is going to be led by Eliza Larson, who's going to become bat mitzvah tomorrow. Before we do that, I'm going to share my screen and give you just something to think about as we move into the candles. This is a quote from Rabbi Lisa Green in an article that she wrote. When I light candles, I am brought back to my great-grandmothers, whom I never knew. I light in a chain of women which likely skipped my grandmothers, but which my mother and father reconnected in our home. A chain that I continue when my children are with me at the table and when I am alone and standing at the kitchen counter. I see that chain powerfully because of a conversation with my mom 25 years ago. I was a rabbinical student. For an assignment, I asked my mom about her beliefs in God and in the Jewish practice she took on deliberately after growing up in a pretty non-observant home. I expected the pragmatic from my ever-practical kindergarten teacher mother. Her answer, a bit mystical and a gift. Mom explained that the power of kindling Shabbat candles lay in seeing her grandmothers as she lit. There in her mind's eye was gentle Polish-born Ida and tough American-born Sarah, each a keeper of the tradition in her small New York apartment. And so as we normally do, we're going to begin with a question. And the question I want you to consider is this. Who does the act of lighting Shabbat candles connect you to? Again, who does the act of lighting Shabbat candles connect you to? Maybe it's a grandmother, maybe a great-grandmother, maybe a cousin, maybe the community, maybe your history, and people thousands of years ago who were lighting candles. But I want to invite you, as we move into the lighting of our candles, to think about that and potentially put down not only the name, but the relationship of those for whom you are connected to as you engage in this sacred and ancient ritual. And so to light our candles, I want to call the Larson family, who will be not only lighting our candles, but Eliza will be leading us in Kiddush. And they might be frozen. Are they frozen for you, Ronnie? Do we have them? There we go.
Hi, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, they muted us.
All right.
Oh, we're not supposed to be muted, right?
Put it in the chat.
So if you want to light
All right.
candles
Sorry, we
now
have
for us.
some challenges.
So we are on page number 2, and I'll invite you to light the candle. Feel free to light the candle now. Yes, please.
Right in chat.
What? Aren't you, is she one by herself? Okay.
Light the candles.
Light the candles,
Sorry,
okay.
yeah.
Sorry, we're having.
I think they're frozen.
So Ronnie, why don't you lead us in the blessing until we get them back.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
And so I want to look now at some of the answers that people had, right? A lot of people wrote in about grandparents or great-grandparents, about certain candlesticks that remind them of people in their lives, about aunts and uncles, and about how lighting candles reminds us of people who have died long ago, about great aunts, and about people who had clergy in their family and who would take the time after lighting those candles to bless their children. So we lost the Larsons. They're going to come back, I think, at some point soon. And so we're going to move on with our service. And when we get them back, then they'll light our candles. Then they will bless our wine and lead us in Kiddush. And so we're going to continue and we're going to join together. We are on page number 20 as we sing together the words of L'chadoti. L'chadoti likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat kavela yaidai yaidai l'chadoti likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat kavela shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad ishmi'anu el hamyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shemo tiferet melihitchila l'chadoti likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat kavela yaidai yaidai l'chadoti likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat kavela. Verse 2. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor ha'biracha mirosh mikedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'mat Shabbat chila. I want to see all your mouths moving. Let's hear you sing. Likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela yaida yaida lichadoti likrat kala yananai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Verse number 5. Hitoreri hitoreri kiva Adonai alayik nigla lechad dodi likrat kala yananai 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela yaida yaida lechad dodi likrat kala yananai 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. We rise together, verse number 9. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha uvetzola tov emunei am segula boi kala lechad dodi likrat kala yananai 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela yaida yaida lechad dodi likrat kala yananai 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 Pnei Shabbat nikabela. We're going to remain standing as we move forward in our prayer books. We're on page number 30 as we join together, 28 as we join together in the Baruch Hu. We bow together. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam. We're seated together as we read together on the next page, page number 31.
This is an hour of change. Within it, we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is an hour of change, and within it, we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim.
So before we move on to our next prayer, we're going to kind of back up. We're going to go to page 5 again, and we're going to try one more time with the Larsons because internet is a very fickle thing. And if we waited till there was a break in the service, we may not have them back. But we have them back now. And so, Eliza, the floor is yours to lead us in Kiddush. You'll have to unmute yourself first, though.
Any direction.
Okay. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila, v'mikrei kodash, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim. Kivanu b'chorta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai Mikadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
Yasher koach. And so we will all say that, and feel free to type in Mazel Tov or any words of encouragement into the chat. And we're going to be continuing with the words of Ahavat Olam. We're on page 32. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Torah u'mitzvot u'kimu mishpatim otanu lemadeta Akein Adonai Eloheinu v'shoveinu v'kumeinu nasiach bechukecha v'nizmach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu v'yorech yameinu uvahem neged yomam v'layla yomam v'layla v'avatecha tazim mimenu le'olamim baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol me'odecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lektecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha Ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot beinenecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Leman tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'hitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem lelohim ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
We're together on page 39, page 39. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there's a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We're on page number 40. Gallery view and watching people clap their hands is kind of cool. Make sure to do it when it's time. זכרה ובניך, בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני אימו לעולם ועד, אדוני אימו לעולם ועד. Nine, 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 Thus it is said, Adonai redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Praised are you, Adonai, for redeeming Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. And so I've got another quote that I want to share with you right now. The quote reads, "As children, we are born to a world of breath and pure sound. At first, everyone responds to our breathing and then to the noises we make. But as time goes on, and little by little, these sounds acquire form and they become words and concepts. No one pays attention to the sounds we make anymore. We become so infatuated with, so attached to language, concept, and form that we forget all about the world of breath, sound, and gesture they emerged from." It's a quote from Alan Lew, "Be still and get going, a Jewish meditation practice for real life." And so I have an assignment for you in this next prayer. I want you to pay attention to the breath and the sound as it comes out of your mouth as you recite it. What does it feel like? And how does it feel to truly listen to your voice more than the actual words? And so we're going to join together with our next prayer. It's a prayer called Hashkivenu, page 42. And again, pay as much attention to the act of singing, the act of breathing, as to the words that you're saying. Page 42. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, Ve'amidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu Lishalom, Ve'amidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. The indented part on the bottom. Ushmor Seitenu Uvoenu Lechaim Ushalom Me'ata v'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom Ve'hamidenu Shomreinu Lechaim. So in a moment, we're going to move into our silent Amidah, which begins on page number 46. You can either pray the traditional words on the page or whatever words are in your heart until our Amidah ends. Knowing that your personal prayers matter and that our community, our rabbis, our ancient sages who wrote our prayer book carve out time to make sure that you get a chance to really have some introspection and personal prayer. So again, we're on page 46, moving through page 62, and I'll invite us to rise.
Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Open my eyes to truth. Open my hands to give freely. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love. Adonai sifatai tiftach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Open my lips to good words, to pure words. Open my heart to love.
Continue in silence. We're on page 62. Yehiyu leratzon imrefi beyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai Vegoali Leratzon Imrefi Veyon Libi Lefanecha Adonai Tzuri Adonai Tzuri Vegoali So we're going to pause for a moment in our service as we think of those who are ill and who are in need of healing, who are in need of a refuah shlema, a complete healing of body, mind, soul, and spirit. And so we'll take a moment, holding the names of the people that you're thinking of in your heart, and feel free, by the way, to put their names into the chat if there's someone that you're thinking of. As together we call up our recording and our names, which will scroll through the screen. And this week, we're thankful to have Ken Cohen, our immediate past president, who will be leading us in Misha Berach. We're going to start the movie over again because it seems like there's no sound. And so hold on 1 second. And we'll get a chance to just fix that right now. Still no sound. So we're actually I'm gonna share my own screen. I'll make sure I'll pull it up right now. I'm sorry for the bumpy road right here. Do we have it, Randy?
Take it away.
All right. All right. So why don't we exit from that, and I'll pull it up right now. Ronnie, if you'll allow me to share my screen. I think you were up sharing yours right now.
No, we're sharing your screen, Rabbi.
Oh, hold on. No, this is not my screen.
No, that is.
Why don't, hold on. I will be sharing my screen right now.
Visheberach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
So thank you, Ken Cohen, and feel free, by the way, to chat to him and to say congratulations and wonderful. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. I want to say a few words about this week's Torah portion in light of the world that we are living in right now, because the truth is, there is a lot of resonance in this week's portion to the place that we are at right now. I don't know about you guys, but I have a tremendous amount of anxiety. And I think no matter where you are on the political spectrum, you probably have a tremendous amount of anxiety, because this election that's coming up is really a choice between two different visions of America. And in my anxiety, I often find myself getting caught up in the fear of what's next, in almost hoping to stop time, or hoping that I had a time machine so that I could go to January 20th and find out what the answer would be. Because at least in that anxiety, at least by having that answer among my anxiety, I might better be able to face what is coming next. And I have to tell you, I'm scared of what's coming next. I'm scared of the protests that are going to happen. I'm scared of the reactions of politicians. I'm scared of people feeling like either their vote didn't count or too many votes counted. I'm scared of the world that's going to come. I'm scared of the violence that may meet us on the streets. I am frightened. And I imagine many of you are too. There are very few times where I look out into the future and it's truly an unknown. And if 2016 taught us anything, it's the fact that even the best predictions can't predict the future. Now, the reason I bring this up is because in this week's portion, we have this kind of ultimate act of faith. Abraham, who is told by God, Lech Lecha, go forth from a land that you know, from your homeland, from the birthplace of you and your parents and your grandparents, of people who came before you. Go forth from the known, go forth from the steady, go forth from the safe, and go to this land that I'm going to show you. This random land where you know no one, where you have no claim to it. Follow me into the darkness, says God. And Abraham hopes that he will see light. Now, what's interesting is that Abraham doesn't. Genesis chapter 12, which is when God says to Abraham, Lech Lecha, go forth to this new land, and you'll found a people, and I'll make of you a great nation, doesn't end with Abraham saying yes. That's only the first few verses. Abraham quickly goes, he gathers all of his property, all of the people who work in his house, all of his animals. He gathers his wife, Sarah. And together they go forth only to realize that as soon as they get there, they greet a drought. And in that drought, they are forced to head to Egypt. And going down to Egypt, they realize that Egypt is unsafe. So unsafe, in fact, that Abraham has to ask Sarah to lie about her relationship to him. He has to say to Sarah, pretend to be my sister, because if they knew that you were my wife, they would kill me, because they might assume that the only way that they could take you is if I am dead. So imagine, once again, being Abraham. And imagine that Abraham is scared to leave the land. But imagine if Abraham knew what the future would hold. Would Abraham have ever gone? If Abraham had realized that as soon as he gets there, he's got to leave, and as soon as he gets to his new place, he's got to lie. He's got to be unsafe, and then he's got to come back. Imagine if Abraham actually could see the future. Imagine what he would do. But there's bravery in seeking the unknown. And there's bravery in not knowing the future. Because I imagine that part of the reason that we are here today is because Abraham had the courage to take that first step out of Mesopotamia, walking southward toward the land of Canaan. And our children and our grandchildren are going to be here because we had the courage to move from today to tomorrow, and from October to November, and from 2020 to 2021. There is so much unease right now. The election is only a piece of it. Between the election and rising rates of positivity in our area, a pandemic that is scary, and not knowing what that's going to hold as well, many of us just want to fade away. We want to stay in the cocoon. We want to figure out how to stop time. But that is impossible. There's a famous phrase that we utter during the High Holy Days. And it's a phrase that I spoke about when I first got here to the congregation, Hayom Harat Olam. This is the birthday of the world. And we say it on Rosh Hashanah after we blow the shofar, but that's actually not what it comes from. It comes from Jeremiah looking at God when his future seemed unbright, when he was worried about what was going to happen, when he wanted not to take any more steps forward. And he said to God that he wished his mother was Harat Olam, not the birthday of the world, but literally eternally pregnant. He wished he had never come out of the womb. He wished his life had not started, because as soon as it started, suddenly he started to face challenges. He wished that he had never been born, because then people wouldn't have scorned him for his message of prophecy. People wouldn't have locked him into the middle of the town square and thrown trash at him. He would not have faced kings who scorned and laughed at him. He would never have watched the walls of Jerusalem burn. Jeremiah faced a hard life. But honestly, imagine what our lives would have been like if Jeremiah's mother had been Harat Olam, if she had been eternally pregnant. We never would have gotten the beauty of the book of Lamentations, which he wrote. We never would have understood the concept of a Jeremiad, which is a prophecy or a screed against a power source, which has implored and inspired people throughout the ages to speak out against power. We never would have got the beautiful poetry of the book of Jeremiah. And we never would have learned his story and seen how desperately the world needs to change sometimes. Thank God that Jeremiah was not stuck in his mother's womb, that she was not Harat Olam, which, as an aside, as I mentioned, the writers of our prayer book took, and instead of saying Harat Olam, eternally pregnant, they meant pregnant with possibility in the coming year. They took this challenging phrase and flipped it on its head. Thankfully, Jeremiah was born. Thankfully, Abraham took his first step. And thankfully, October 30th becomes the 31st, which becomes the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And then it continues on into November 4th and 5th and 6th, and it keeps going. I am scared for what the next month is going to bring. I have no idea. And I'm sure you don't either. But I have to tell you that we have to walk forward. Because indeed, our world is pregnant with possibility. And though we can't stay inside forever, we have to know that when we take those first steps, despite the challenges, because of the challenges, this world is worth struggling with. I'm glad I don't have a crystal ball, because I imagine I would be even more scared if I knew what the future indeed held, because I would be prepared for it. But because I'm not, I can imagine a world that goes beyond my fears. And we have to work every single day to do that. Shabbat Shalom. So I want to invite us now to rise as we move forward in our prayer book, and we turn to the words of the Aleinu, which you can find together on page 282. We rise together.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu ki goyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchokenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Vanachnu karim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
Or page 287.
V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad.
We're seated together. Our thoughts now turn to those who we have loved and who we have lost. And this Shabbat, we recall the following individuals for whom we are observing a yahrzeit: Samuel Abramovitz, Evelyn Asher, Leonard Blackman, Emily Brand, Israel Brenner, Kitty Breslau, Lillian Brownstein, Mary Cornell Burstein, Philip Busen, Samuel Busen, Herbert Dix, Leon Feather, Max Feldman, Livia Fleissig, Edith Glicken, Della Mae Goldsmith, Sylvia Green, Lorna Hoffman, Louis Canoff, Spencer Kimball, Sidney Koch, Albert Coppell, Susan Cover, Arlene Linetsky, Benjamin Lynn, Helen Mackler, Violet Nelson, Albert Nolan, Bertha Olitsky Novak, Sarah Price, Florence Rosen, Frederick Sampson, Sandra Sachs, Irving Schumann, Sylvia Brazaza Siegel, Irene Serlin, Yetta Shankin, Miriam Shankman, Lawrence Scholler, Lena Silberman, Mishka Slatkin, and Jack Weinstock. And those who are in their Shiva and Shloshim periods of mourning: Judy Weston, wife of Josh Weston, Eve Krebs, grandmother of Jonathan McGalnick. So we take all those names and we add any names of our own in. We turn together to page 294 and we rise together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. V'yama divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei. V'chayachon uvyomachon uv'chaye d'chol beit Israel. Bagala ubizman kariv v'imru amin. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulamei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudasha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiram v'yama v'imru amin. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amin. Oseh shalom b'mramav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amin. Please be seated. So before we move into our closing song, just a few announcements. So tomorrow at 9 a.m., we have our Torah study. And then at 10 a.m., we've got our congregational services, at which we will call Eliza Larson for the very first time up to the Bima as Bat Mitzvah. And we want to say congratulations to her family. A few other announcements. It just coming together now. The 3 other synagogues in the area have decided that what we really need is kind of to take a communal breath together on the Saturday night after the election, so a week from this Saturday night. And so look out for more information about it, but we're going to be having a kind of a communal Havdalah with the 4 other synagogues. I can't tell you exactly what the themes are and the feel. The truth is we're going to be reacting to whatever the times are in terms of what we say and what the readings are and how it feels. But save the date because we will be getting together as a community. And then look, we've got a number of other kind of important and wonderful events. I want to plug an event on the 16th. It's called Open Your Heart. We have Jim Johnson and Parker Palmer, 2 really kind of prominent thinkers who are going to be reflecting on kind of what is the spirituality of doing anti-racism work. And so that's going to be a really great event, and I hope that you'll check it out. Ronnie, do you have anything you want to add in terms of things?
I do. I definitely do. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at the same time, parallel to the Torah study, is Tai Chi, and Ray Wolfson is going to be doing Tai Chi. And next weekend, I know that Irene Sherman is going to be doing it. And I've already seen the video of it. They're pretty amazing teachers. So they're going to teach through the video and people can indeed do Tai Chi. And then something something that's very close to my heart. Next Wednesday, November 4th at 7:30 p.m., I start our Creatives Beit Midrash one more time, and I'll be co-teaching it on the first evening with my dear friend Toby Kahn. He's an amazing, acclaimed painter and sculptor whose work is exhibited all over, and we will be co-teaching together. He's the one that I first started the Artist Beit Midrash with my studies in Manhattan over 10 years ago, and I'm looking forward to him being a part of it. Register if you haven't already. And one last piece, on Thursday, Norman Pollock is doing his Jewish short stories, and they're at 1 p.m., and you need to register for that too. And as we say each week, there is so much going on all the time. Don't forget to check your Garrett, and you'll find links in there as well. And have a great week. We will see you next Shabbat if we don't see you before.
Absolutely. And so we are going to move into our closing song. We're on page 321 as we join together in the words of Adon Olam. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'cheso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharek Yiklot Hakol Levado Yimlo Nora Ve'hu Haya Ve'hu Oveh Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Yeh B'tifara Ve'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Ve'ham Shila Ve'akira Ve'li Reichi Ve'li Tachli Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ham Yisra Ve'lo Ha'oz Ve'ham Yisra Ve'hu Eli Ve'chai Go'ali Ve'tzor Chevli Ve'etzara Ve'hu Nisi Umanosli Menat Kosi Ve'yom Ekra Menat Kosi Ve'yom Ekra B'yado Afki Ruhi Ve'em Ishan Ve'ayira Ve'im Ruhi Gebiati Adonai Li Velo Ira Adonai Li Velo Ira. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And so we're going to take everybody on to the ability to unmute yourself. We're going to stop the recording and stop the YouTube.